Radio check. Loud and clear.
KSL Sports and KSL Podcast present Mode Push, an American view of F1, starting now.
One stop. Here's what you get with his Odyssey.
I'm gutted. I'm absolutely gutted.
I enjoyed this so much. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, everybody, welcome on in. It's another edition of Mode Push, an American view of F1, our F1 podcast, right here in the good old US of A. More important now today than we ever thought. Dan Jimenez, my co-host as usual. I'm Alex Kirry. Dan, I took some time off and I took a introspective look at my life. I cut out the things I didn't need, and I need the F1 podcast. I need F1 still in my life. So that's still a good part of all this.
I'm relieved to hear that. We made the cut. I was worried.
No, it's more like, how could you not? I mean, listen, it's a growing sport. We are some of those people who, I like to hold just a little bit of something over other people's head, like, oh, you're just getting into it. I've been a fan for 6.5 years. Felt like a lifetime. You can always hold that over people. I started watching Drive to Survive on Netflix years ago, seasons ago.
I still get people coming up to me saying they just barely started watching Drive to Survive. I'm like, man, you're like 4 years behind the trend, but great.
I always want to go, oh, man. Max and Daniel Ricciardo, that's a pairing that'll never break up when they first start watching.
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
My goodness. Oh, Max and anybody, by the way. What a weird and amazing driver market that we are currently in. How did Lewis Hamilton plan it out so perfectly? Now everything that he's doing now is like, oh my goodness, he saw the future. And the future is that Ferrari's on the way up and Mercedes and Toto Wolff on their way down-ish, or at least not able to come back up. And chinks in the armor, obviously, at Red Bull also, as Adrian Newey is unofficially announced that he is not going to be returning to Red Bull, right? And so you've got all sorts of mix-up, all sorts of fun stuff. It's something that at least makes the idea of F1 going forward a little bit more competitive, right?
Yeah, 2026 is starting to shape up to be more interesting than I thought it was going to be with all of these moves. And yeah, Lewis is looking like a genius right now, when before we were like, really? So, I mean, good for him. But yeah, Adrian Newey leaving is, he's been there 19 years. He is, credited as the mind behind the run with, championship run with Vettel and now with Max. And, he's the most I would say he's the most highly valued resource in F1 outside of Max Verstappen as a driver.
Interesting. Yeah. And technical directors included.
Technical directors included. It'd be like, if you're starting a team from scratch, you'd want to pick Max first and Adrian Newey second, I think. And it's going to, I can't wait to see where he goes. Signs are pointing towards Ferrari. But man, I really hope Aston is still in the mix, because I love the idea of like the Empire Strikes Back, just like the evil empire of Aston Martin buying up all the talent and making a run at Red Bull. And yeah, man, this does put Max, moving to another team, I think, into play. Whereas before I think he kind of written it off.
I know that Christian Horner's time at Red Bull is going to be looked at as, and speaking of which, I mean, Adrian Newey's basically been there the entire time he has, right? And so he's been the team principal for the last 20 years. And now the whole off-track stuff, the whole, accusations of inappropriate relationships and all that, despite the fact that the internal investigation found that he didn't do anything wrong or whatever it was, we're starting to see a lot of the fallout. Like, still, there was a part where people go, yeah, but we kind of see also what really did happen, and something wasn't right there, and that evil empire in itself seems like it's going to be crumbling a little bit. And that might be why Adrian Newey goes, I'm going to divest myself of this. And I've seen all sorts of reports. I've seen all of the different uniforms. We do this. We're perfect at this in the U.S. already. We will put a photoshopped guy with a jersey of the team that we've been thinking about him being on. We will do that instantly. They do it in F1 now, and it's amazing because the fake headlines of who's going to go where and what could possibly happen, the shifting around that's going to be happening. I have no clue what it's going to look like. We have no clue what the drivers lineup is going to look like even next year. So if Max Verstappen is not at Red Bull, where on earth is he?
Well, the available spots, I've got the list up here of the driver slots that have been filled and have not been filled. So the spaces that are available for 2025 are the second seat at Red Bull, the second seat at Mercedes, technically the second seat at Aston Martin, because nobody knows Lance's contract terms.
You know how this is going to work.
Write that off.
Newey is going to get the job there, and then they're going to go, oh, with this new design, with this new aero design that Adrian Newey's bringing in, now Lance is going to be able to go in there and make his impact. It's not going to be good.
That was the missing piece. Both Alpine seats are open. Both Williams seats are open.
Wow.
Both Red Bull Cash App seats are open. Both Haas seats are open. And one of the Kick Sauber seats is open because Hulkenberg just signed with them. So there's a lot of spaces. Where would Max go? Really, I mean, it's either Aston Martin or Mercedes, if not at Red Bull. And who is going to be Max's teammate? I don't think it's going to be Sergio. I think Carlos is the most likely candidate. But you got to think AMG is throwing everything they can. I saw reports that they scheduled a meeting with Max, and like the CEO of Mercedes was there, and they were just rolling out the red carpet and bringing in all the big guns.
What was the number that you saw? I saw $150 million contract.
150 is what I saw.
But 10% ownership of the group, or of not of the Mercedes group, but like
AMG
Petronas of the F1 team, right? So essentially, you're buying in, and you and Toto are partners for life. But the problem is do you have a good car underneath you?
Yeah, man, 150. I mean, that is.
Well, I was just talking today about how Giannis. I was like, how can we bring Giannis to Utah after they get the crap beat out of him by the Pacers? And somebody rolled out his contract for me, and his contract by 2027 is going to be $80 million a year. And I thought,
yeah,
I guess that's where we're at. F1 is already there, certainly, but $150 million would be 3 times more than what even like Lewis is probably making right now at Mercedes.
Right. Yeah. No, it's completely bonkers. So they're throwing everything they can at Max, and you got to think he takes the call or the meeting, and he's considering it with Adrian leaving. And if Helmut Marko leaves, then I think Max is definitely gone. He doesn't want to be left there holding the bag. When we're going into a rules, a new era of F1 with the rule changes in 2026 that are going to be heavily dependent on the performance of the hybrid engine. And you've got a new engine partner with Ford that Red Bull has, and now you've lost Adrian Newey. If I'm Max, I'm seriously considering like who is going to dominate, have the resources to dominate the next era. And Mercedes probably doesn't sound as crazy as it once did.
Isn't it funny how the strange bedfellows that are made in sports in general, right? Where you just go, I hate that team so much, and the next week you're like, I've loved this team my entire life. I've always been a Mercedes fan. And so that to me is, I mean, honestly, the catalyst was all of this Christian Horner stuff, right? I mean, in the end, if none of that happens, Adrian Newey's not talking about leaving. Everything kind of the stability's there, and Red Bull dominates the sport for however long, maybe at least until the next, the new regulations in 2026. But I mean, the silly season is going to be the most interesting that we've seen in a long, long time, and that's been after a couple of years of really, really interesting silly seasons too.
And it feels like the next, card to flip is what Carlos chooses to do. There were reports. Unsubstantiated reports earlier this week that he had turned down the offer from Audi Sauber. But then I guess today in the pre-weekend media interviews, he denied that, said that no, he has not turned down an offer from them. So everything still seems on the table as an option from Carlos. It's long been rumored that Audi really wants him, which who wouldn't? So I think he makes his decision next, and then the dominoes fall quickly after that. On the topic of driver lineups, poor Logie Bear Sargent, I think, is done for. They're already saying that he's going to get replaced at Imola by Antonelli. So,
Ooh, boy.
we might be watching our last couple races of Logan if he doesn't somehow pull some
had to keep
points, finishes out of the bag.
him at least through Miami, right? And you're just like, let's get this kid one American race, and then we can figure it out from there. But, like, I mean, honestly, between Logan Sargent, Zhou Guanyu, even like K-Mag, I mean, who knows what his future looks like. There's so many guys that right now people are like, nah, you're done. We're kind of over this guy. We're kind of done with this. I was glad for Nico because he's had a phenomenal go to basically prove himself. And I know he's got that relationship with Sauber. I know he's got that relationship, and they talked about that before. But if he wasn't performing on the track, getting into Q3 when that Haas car has no business being in Q3 like it has been in some of these races, I mean, it's pretty cool to see him kind of get there. I would imagine. I don't know what it looks like at least next year. And I know Sauber Audi's got to figure it out. When do they actually put the Audi badge on it though? 2028?
I thought 2026, but
either way, not next season.
Not next year. Yeah.
What's Valtteri do?
Yeah.
That guy's an awesome driver. Like what team wouldn't want to have a guy who has a dozen Grand Prix wins and, almost like 80 podiums or whatever it was when he was driving that Mercedes car. Like, and that guy, you want that dude on your team as a marketable, asset as well. So I don't know. There are all these people that I'm wondering what their jobs are going to be in F1.
Yeah. Yeah. Valtteri, I don't see him leaving the sport. He's too, like you said, he's too much of a good talent to not be on the grid. But if Audi, Sauber signs Carlos, then he's got to find a new home, and he probably has to regress to Haas or Alpine, or probably his only two options. Or does he go back to Mercedes? If they're going to put Antonelli in the Williams first, does Valtteri go back to partner with Russell for a 2-year contract? Maybe.
Wild. So I'm trying to think too, and Carlos not getting any offers right now. I know that's kind of made people a little bit nervous, but I mean, he has been the second best driver, it seems like, on the grid this year, right?
Totally.
And so why wouldn't that guy have a seat already kind of set up for him? I think we kind of assumed it was going to be Audi. I mean, Hülkenberg Audi lineup would be pretty darn good as your first go into the sport with the new badge on there as a works team. It's going to be an Audi engine, though, right? Isn't that what it's not going to be? It's not going to be something else, right?
Right. I think Audi is going to be, doing the engine development, because they have been a Ferrari customer,
right,
for a long time. But I think that was kind of the big kind of angle there, was that Audi was going to come in and be an engine manufacturer.
Well, of all the things that are going on off the track, the on-track stuff has actually gotten way less interesting now that we really get down to it. And Max Verstappen has another chokehold on the championship that 1 week in Australia, as the engine, or as his brakes blew up or whatever. It gave us 1 week of not being able to feel like that people could run him down after 1 week, but he's already a full race win ahead of everybody else behind him again. Going down to Miami, he's won the last 2 of these races. Heaven knows that he will likely be the favorite also going into this one. But I don't know. I don't know what to expect for the rest of the season in terms of actual on-track performance from anybody else except for from Max.
Yeah, one can only hope and dream that Max runs into some more mechanical issues to keep things exciting. Behind Max, it's super exciting. There's lots of kind of competition and close racing, and I love seeing Lando get up there and fighting in second place, but he's still crossing the finish line 10-15 seconds behind Max. So no one's challenging Max for the championship, but lots of exciting racing outside of that. So you just got to do the cover the first place up on the TV with a piece of paper and tape. Just cover that, and then just watch the race for second, and it keeps it exciting.
All right, so Miami this weekend. The track in Miami's been made fun of quite a bit. Not the least of which
Rightfully
is because
so.
of the fake boats that they glue onto the fake infield of that track. Is the actual circuit though as bad as we think it is, or what is it? What is it about? What's this race need to do to improve? What are they going to do with the future of this race?
I think, they've done the best they could do with the constraint of building a racetrack at a parking lot. Like, there's no elevation change, which I think is part of what can create some really exciting racing, and what would make a quote unquote driver's track. So we've kind of done the best they can in a zero elevation change. They've got 3 DRS zones, which is promotes some passing. The surface doesn't really wear the tires a ton. So if I had to take one track off of the calendar, I probably am thinking Miami first. There's maybe one I'm forgetting about, but I think Miami, we've got 3 Grand Prix. I think Las Vegas last year showed that it is the better street circuit than Miami for sure. From just a pure racing standpoint, even just ignoring all of the other stuff that comes with Las Vegas, I think it's a better racing track. And we need to look up what the contract terms are with Miami, but I wouldn't be sad, and I don't think many people would be sad if it went away.
This is a very important question too. Are we going to Las Vegas to the Grand Prix down there this year?
I absolutely am in.
You're in?
When did tickets go on sale?
I think they already did. If you own an
no, now we're late.
Well, if you the availability's there, because I think people are still trying to figure out how to pay for last year's race, getting tickets to last year's race. So there are tickets available. I will say too, having been there, if you just get the regular old, I love the regular old. If you get like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, if we do the Friday, Saturday, Sunday pass, and what you get with that is you get kind of a general admission, kind of the infield. But you find a place and you can stand and sit and watch the race kind of in a really, really nice area. Plus you get all those extra concerts, plus all the food and drink are free on that ticket as well. So that might be a good one. I mean, they really don't. And then from there, we sneak into other places. That's the whole point, right? I mean, you got to. You go in and you try to sneak into other places. So the Vegas Grand Prix is going to be interesting. I'm trying to figure out though, because somebody sent me a video actually today, and it was of Lewis, and so I want you to explain some of the things that would actually be advantageous. Do we know any of the regulations that are going to be changing for 2026 at all that would make it a little bit more competitive? What do we know about the change of the regulations and the rules coming up in 2026?
Yeah, the big change is that they're shooting for a 50-50 distribution of power from the 6-liter and the electric motor. So today, it's more like a kind of 80-20 split. But, with F1's big push towards, net zero carbon emissions and, more efficiency and all of that stuff, they want to push 50-50 gas and electric. So they're getting rid of the MGU-H, which was like the energy electric motor generated by the heat from the car. It's really inefficient and kind of dumb. And so they're just going to get more electric power out of the MGU-K, which is the kinetic energy recovery. So when they brake, it charges the battery, and then they can deploy it. And so there's going to be more power from the electric motor, and the drivers are actually going to have like a for lack of a better term, a push to pass button that will deploy for a short amount of time more electric power to be able to max out their top speed and their acceleration. So early on, there was a lot of concerns. Early on, being a year ago, there were a lot of concerns because in the simulators, the way that it was all working out, like a lot of weird stuff was happening, and that they're like, oh, well, it's going to be optimal to like downshift on a long straight to be able to like get the revs up to be able to charge your battery, and it's just going to be really weird driving dynamics. But they say that all that has been ironed out. So that's the first big change, is that it's going to be more electric power. There is active aero planned for the front of the car. So we've got our DRS on the back. There's planned for an active aero element on the front wing as well, towards the nose of the car. And then the bigger piece is, I guess the third big piece is the cars are going to be narrower and shorter, which is something that, the team's been pushing for a long time, because with the evolution of F1 cars, they've just gotten bigger and bigger.
Harder to pass.
Harder to drive. Yeah. Harder to pass, especially at these smaller tracks like Monaco. You got driving like a big truck around Monaco is not as exciting as a little, go-kart. So yeah, they're a little bit shorter and a little bit narrower. And on the net, they're going to be a little bit lighter as well by, I think, like 10 or 20K once you take into account larger batteries and all of that stuff. So those are the big changes, and it's, I think it will create more competition, and that, kind of levels the playing field on the development cycle again. And I think that how the active aero is going to work is still to be determined, and like how much drivers are going to be able to use that kind of push to pass electric energy is yet to be determined as well. So yeah, those are the changes that are coming up.
Well, I'm hoping it makes it a little bit more interesting. Obviously, we all want to see something a little bit more interesting. I do have some sound of David Crofty, asking a question to Lewis at the Miami Grand Prix media event that happened earlier today. So here's what it sounded like. I just love that he asked him the question point blank, and that even Lewis got a little bit uncomfortable. And I'll try to, at least from the audio perspective, I'm watching the video, and I can also give you kind of a little bit of a because it's like, what did his face look like when he said it? So here's what the question was when Crofty asked Lewis about some of the goings on of his shift over to Ferrari.
Come to Ferrari and said, what would your wish list be? If he didn't say, what would your wish list be? Was Adrian Newey part of that? Did you ever think that there would be that possibility? And sitting here now, what do you think the chances are that you could partner with Adrian Newey in the future?
I mean, this is all private conversation stuff. So if I was to do a list of people that I'd love to work with, he would absolutely be at the top of it.
What's the chances, do you think?
I mean, I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. We'll see. And then I can't describe for you enough, Dan, the insane smirk on Lewis's face at the very end of that. Like,
yeah, no, he's zero poker face. Like, I could hear it. I could hear him smirking in his voice.
So it was like at first he tried really hard for 1 minute to go. I mean, that's all private conversation stuff, so no comment. He could have just ended it right there. But was Adrian Newey on that list? We'll see. I mean, we'll have to, see about what goes on in the future. Like, he could not contain himself. So
yeah, so done deal. Adrian Newey to Ferrari. Thanks,
know.
Lewis.
I know that's the assumption, right? That's good news that's good news. And good news for guys like you, Dan, who are closet Ferrari fans that can finally
closet tifosi. 100%.
You can wear the powder blue HP colors with
oh
pride
my
this
gosh,
weekend.
we should talk about that. Oh my gosh,
what happened? What is the devil's
Jeez, these marketing branding teams all need to be fired. We need to have a rule that you are not allowed to tease a specialty color for your livery if it's not going to be the primary color on the car.
Of course, HP is going to be blue inside the HP on the circle that is on the car, but if it's as big as a quarter, no one cares. Like, the amount of light blue cars, light blue Ferrari possibilities that we saw, we've already been teased with the black and yellow car at one point. Like, we didn't get that, so I guess we just have to deal with the light blue HP. Nothing screams Ferrari and F1 like a printer company. It's just classy.
Yeah, weird pairing there. But I think so many renderings we saw. It's like, okay, they've got the blue fire suits. All right, like fan renderings, all blue car. It looks so cool. And then they're like, no, we're going to put some stickers on the front wing and on the the rear wing. And you're going to be happy with it.
The blue Dynaco jokes for the last 2 weeks have just been phenomenal too. The Dynaco blue,
such a chance to do something cool, but it's just there's no courage anymore. I think with these marketers.
No. See, but that's why you have to be like Ferrari. I get it because they are having to like. There's not a culture in the world that gets more offended by going a little bit away from something traditional, right? But in sports, we're like, give me the alternate jersey. Give me the alternate. Give me the away alternate. Color for this. And by the way, if it sucks, you use it that 1 week and it's done anyway. It doesn't matter. Yeah. And especially look, if they were a dog and they weren't competing in any of these races, you go, don't change anything because then we're just going to make fun of you and go like, remember that light blue car that crashed out of Miami or had another DNF or whatever. But Ferrari's on the rise, and you know what? The way you stick it to people is. You put a light blue car out there and you say, yep, we did it. We did it one time and we got over it. And yes, we know Ferrari is a red team historically. Thanks for telling us. We know about it. But like, to be one of these, smaller teams who goes, screw it. Let's just try whatever we can so people look at our car for more than 5 seconds.
Yeah. It's how cool would it look? It's, going around the hairpin next to the fake marina, the blue Ferrari would have looked really good.
The fake marina. So you got the fake marina. You're passing one of the Kick Sauber bright green cars on your way by in a Ferrari that's light blue. Come on. They missed an opportunity here. All right. All right. So this weekend, I'm not sure much is going to change. I do think that there is, I think that I owe Checo an apology because I think I had written off Checo totally. Now, he's still finishing miles behind his own teammate with the quote-unquote same car, but he's also still hanging in there. And I think Checo, the guy is going to be in F1 still, right? Or is he going to be out of a job? Man, I really hope he does stay, but I could see him losing his seat. These other teams are going to want to, I think, take bets on up-and-coming talent, right? Somebody they can build off of, and maybe you just don't – unless you're someone maybe in a Kick Sauber where you're like, I just need somebody to fill a seat for a year and not wreck the car. I think that these other teams are going to be looking to find the next Max Verstappen, and that's not Sergio. Yeah. Yeah, but Red Bull is also not the same Red Bull, right? I mean, and so if you're already going to be losing Max and you keep Checo, you throw all the money in the world that you can at Carlos Sainz because you still have a really quick car, maybe. I mean, who knows?
Yeah. That's probably, the big piece is them trying to, first nail down what is Max doing and then figure out what you do with that second seat. Because there's still the possibility they re-sign Sergio.
Right. All right, I'm going to throw out my prediction. I'm going to stick to it. Checo stays at Red Bull, and they sign, are you ready for this? Valtteri Bottas in a Red Bull seat, and there you go. And you know what? That's a competitive little team. I like those two drivers. I mean, say what you will about them. They're both
Valtteri has the personality for it. He's the marketable personality that I think Daniel Ricciardo used to be. I mean, did you see the commercial that he did for Uber in Australia?
Yes,
that was
so good,
hilarious,
with
right?
the short shorts on and everything. Yeah, and guess what? They can't even get Max to do like a quarter of an interview, right? He just wants to get on his stream and hang out with his streaming buddies, and so that's the other part of this is like maybe Max Verstappen goes, because he's going to win his 4th title this year, right? Is it 4? Yeah, 4th title this year. Then what? He always threatens that he's going to walk away from F1. So freaking do it, Max. Make all of our lives a little bit more fun for once. So, I don't know. Maybe he does one of those crazy things that the driver who has had it all, or the high end athlete who has had it all, just goes out on the top and goes, "Yeah, I'm done with sports. I'm done with this. I'm just going to go off and do what I want over here." But it is difficult to try to pass off $150 million. But what's $150 million for a guy who has probably earned that over the past 3 or 4 seasons anyway? So it's not, it's not insane to think that he could walk away from the sport all the way, is it?
I don't know it's hard to read Max.
He's a weirdo. He's a weirdo.
What he'd do. Yeah. The sim racing stuff, he races sports cars when he does it. He doesn't race F1. So I could maybe see him say, okay, 4 championships in F1. I'm going to go win a championship in the World Endurance Challenge. And then I'm going to go win a championship in IndyCar. And then and just like retire the greatest, unequivocally the greatest driver of all time. Go get a Le Mans, go get an Indy 500. I don't know. IndyCar is crazy. A lot of drivers that race in other sports won't do IndyCar because how dangerous it seems. But I could see him just kind of going and collecting the different, premier racing championships after F1.
Max Verstappen is the favorite, of course. Checo Perez is the odds-on favorite to get 2nd place in the Miami Grand Prix. And then, shocker, Charles is the pegged 3rd place. And then it goes Lando. These are all Vegas numbers, by the way.
Yeah.
And so your predicted podium, though, for this weekend coming up in Miami.
I'm going to go Max, Lando, Fernando.
Wow, all the Andos. Nice.
Both the Andos on the podium.
And just still
Fernando got 3rd last year.
Oh, that's right.
And So he was fighting there. Like he almost stinking took the lead into the, first couple of corners of the race last week. He wouldn't have held on to it. But, I think he's at the top of his game if he can stay out of penalties.
Lando, another bridesmaid situation for him. I don't know when his first win's going to come, but for all these guys, when you're racing in the era of Max Verstappen paired with an Adrian Newey car, then it's just an unfortunate part of your career, because all these guys probably think all the time, Dan, about how if they were in X car, they would actually be the 4-time champion themselves, right? I mean, every one of them think the same thing, probably all the way down to well, maybe not Logan Sargent, but certainly like Lance Stroll. He's probably like, heck yeah, the only thing holding me back is the arrow on my car. That's the only thing holding me back, And don't put mirrors on it, because I certainly am not going to use them. So in the end, it is what it is. But I'm going to go a little bit different. I'm going to say Max has issues again this weekend. I'm going to say he gets crashed out, though. I'm going to say he gets crashed out. I'm going to go Checo 1, Charles 2nd, and then I'm going to go Oscar Piastri 3rd. That's my podium.
Checo win. Okay.
Checo win. And you know what? Makes it a little bit more interesting. And Max is like, on his radio cursing up and down, and there you go. And then I don't know where Mercedes is supposed to finish this weekend, but man, what a disappointing. Is it another sprint weekend too, by the way?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Sprint race.
Okay. There you go. We'll see how they do.
We'll see if Lance Stroll can keep out of running into the back of other cars.
He cannot help himself. You know that. He just is
eyes on the road, Lance.
A big dumb idiot. There you go. Somebody goes, most punchable face in all of the F1 grid, and I said, you know what? Can't disagree with him. Cannot disagree with him. Dan, awesome way to get back into it again, talking about Miami and getting into it again. So appreciate you joining me again this week as usual, and we'll be back and doing it more consistently now that I'm off my paternal leave. So there you go.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Okay. Dan Jimenez, Alex Kirry. Download the podcast, tell a friend, teach a neighbor about F1. We'll be back again next week, everybody.